Those who do not think that America is always right in national politics have made a great deal of derision recently regarding the neocon in Washington, D.C. argument that we represent a rules-based order, which more observant individuals have noted subverts international law, fair play, and ordinary neighborly relations between countries is umpired by the United Nations. Well, insofar as America has established a legal system, they're entitled to struggle for a rules-based order working amongst themselves. I can testify that it's a laugh that we have law enforcement and due process. That's a laugh. You can't even get genocide investigated properly in the United States. Nobody cares. I've presented document after document, word after word, contradicting the criminally insane premise of the British government rock stars who study and comprehension to make no sense themselves, showing that Mount Desert Island was planned by Kennedy's assassins, according to a script written by an Israeli called the Texas School Book. That's not a lot to think about. That's very simple. And if I said it again, it wouldn't change, in fact, or substance. But the women of the Bar Association say, oh, you offended us with your tears when you were rejected by our gender. It's not anything resembling a rules-based order, but the United States is entitled to try. You know, sort of like I wouldn't laugh at an exhausted wheelchair patient struggling to finish a marathon in the Special Olympics. I don't think America should be laughed at for their totally ridiculous claim to represent a legal system. They're entitled to strive. But one of the things that's most clear about this situation is what was done to the Kennedys properly. They did, in fact, attempt to acknowledge and change relations with Native Americans, with black minorities, advocate for the struggle among people to lean in the direction of common decency and dignity towards one another. Compassion and concern was not lost on them. No, they were sacrificed by a mafia who gave various strange reasons for what they did. Some of them held up the Bible, others talked about communism or sex. But the bottom line was that they violated the rules and sacrificed the Kennedys' object lessons. Now, to understand what happened to the Kennedys wouldn't really be that hard. In fact, as a person who has gone to shows by prog rockers that involved multimedia, imagery, 3 screens of images, and has attended various art exhibitions and experimental films and educational presentations. I can tell you it wouldn't be impossible to come up with a reasonable presentation of fact which left the reader informed as to what was done to the Kennedys. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to get media, educational authorities, political authorities, or peers. I mean, I live in a society of truly unworthy peers. It's so shocking to me that I'm writing a long poem called Unworthy Peers. But it wouldn't be that hard. It's hard to get the Kennedys themselves to cooperate with a project like that. But I'll tell you some of the things that it would look like, and so that if you really are interested, you can come away with a better understanding. For one thing, Bush, the lunatic enclave in Texas, came up with this truly offensive slogan for their bombing of museums and their laying waste to civilians and their unprovoked aggression on Iraq. It was shock and awe. Bottom line is, what these men do is shocking, but don't allow it to instill anything like awe. Shock, but not awe, is the better slogan. So, if you look at the Kennedy assassination properly, what do? You look first at the chain of evidence. It's perfectly normal police work. If there's a gun lying on the ground, you ask, where did that gun come from? Who does that gun belong to? So when we get the rifle in the window, before all this stuff about how they manhandle it, move things around, how it was laid out in a pattern, that it couldn't have just been random, that the rifle wasn't the one that was used or anything else. Let's go through the process of asking, what is this rifle? Who does it belong to? Where did it come from? The chain of evidence. And of course, Pittsburgh does like this here and that there, and the Kennedy researchers do like this here and that there. Get over it. It's ordinary police work. What is this rifle and where did it come from? Okay, so you get them to calm down. Mo Larry Cheese, Mo Larry Cheese. You get them to calm down and answer the question. It was sold by Klein's Rifle Store, Klein's gun shop, to Lee Harvey Oswald, and it was in Michael Payne's garage. So who is Michael Payne? Well, Ruth Payne, his wife, and Michael Payne took in Marguerite Oswald, Lee Harvey Oswald's wife. He went to their residence as a boarder, room and boarder. He went to their residence once a week to visit his wife on Sunday, not his rifle. That means that 24/7, other than the Oswald visiting time, the rifle was in the possession of Michael Payne. So, who had possession of the rifle? A man named Michael Payne. So the next question you ask is, who is this guy, Michael Payne? Well, it turns out that Michael Payne was part of a cartel that had sat on the board of directors of United Fruit Corporation. His cousin, I believe it was, sat on the board of directors of the United Fruit Corporation, as did Allen Dulles, notorious director of Central Intelligence, who met with Adolf Hitler in 1933 to forgive his campaign debts for Schroeder Bank so he could become Chancellor of Germany. So you began to see the fabric of what was going on. The star witness for the Warren Report had just been let out of a mental asylum where he was locked up for threatening to kill JFK. You can fact check this because he appeared on the cover of Life magazine for leading a race riot at University of Mississippi, General Edwin Walker. then became the star witness with no review whatsoever against Lee Harvey Oswald. Isn't that remarkable? Now, when you look at the book from 1962 by Colin Cross called The Fascists in Britain, you find that it is about a man named Oswald Mosley. So just take a minute. You take the name Oswald and put it here. Take the word Oswald and put it there. You see Oswald. Okay, so it's a visual signifier, but as yet we haven't shown that they're using them intentionally as a visual signifier. But if they were, would it make sense? Is a simple question. It's a simple question. If they were using it as a visual signifier, Oswald and Oswald, would it make sense? The Fascists in Britain on the dust jacket identifies General Edwin Walker, who, if you're old enough to remember what I said 5 minutes ago, was the man who had just been let out of an insane asylum for threatening to kill Kennedy, who became the star witness against Lee Harvey Oswald, appears on the dust jacket of a book about Oswald Mosley, 1962 by Colin Cross, called The Fascists in Britain, in which he is called the most dangerous racist in America. So the most dangerous racist in America gets arrested for threatening to kill JFK, for sending in federal troops to escort James Meredith to class at the University of Mississippi, where he was leading a race riot to protest a black man being admitted to what they called Old Miss. He was released from an insane asylum for this, and presto, in a puff of smoke, becomes the star witness for the Warren Commission against Oswald. And he's on the cover of a book about Oswald Mosley. So it would make sense, you see. So don't say it wouldn't make sense. So the board of directors of the United Fruit Corporation is not the only little knickknack in the circumstance surrounding Michael Payne's possession of the rifle and Allen Dulles' forgiveness of Hitler's campaign debts in 1933 connected to Adolf Hitler. John McCloy, who was also on the Warren Commission as Allen Dulles was, sat in Adolf Hitler's personal booth at the Munich Olympics. So it's not just General Walker and Allen Dulles, but now we have John McCloy. And what's more is Melvin Belli, the gratis public defender who beamed down from Star Trek, where he was a guest star sometimes. Melvin Belli was the attorney for Hermann Goring's widow. He was known to go out on Hitler's yacht. So we have already 4 people close to Adolf Hitler. 4 people close to Adolf Hitler. 4 people close to Adolf Hitler. See, Oswald, Allen Dulles, John McCloy, Melvin Belli. See, Hermann Goring was Adolf Hitler's number 2 man, and Melvin Belli represented his widow. He was the highest ranking Nazi to get it at Nuremberg. And they beamed down from Star Trek and JFK, poof, goodbye. And it's all, I mean, when you look at the actual research of who did it, you see George Takei was in the Green Berets with John Wayne. There's a picture of John Wayne with Lee Harvey Oswald. We can get into that. I've proven that Ronald Reagan was in on it. And of course, you're not supposed to talk about the Oswald connection, because what was the Clint connection? There was a Charles Bronson making movies in Dealey Plaza that day. A. Charles Bronson. Remember the mechanic? Same name. Clint, Oswald, Charles Bronson. You don't go that road. No. Yes, you do. This is the United States of America, and we owe John Kennedy a fair investigation. And you can't get anybody to cooperate. They won't even release files that by law they're required to release. So yeah, hocus pocus, rules-based, they say. Rules-based. We pass a law. All Kennedy archives must be released by 2017. We hereby so rubber stamp with our rules-based order. And then refuse to do it. Time flies by. People who are interested party with emotions to remember die. And Joe Biden, the Trumpy tunes sit pretty. Nobody says Clint on, Clint off. I'll tell you what they did to me. Okay? The Israelis kidnapped and tortured me. They dragged me through glass. Was the nicest thing that they did to me. They gassed me. They gave me a nerve agent. Look at my face. I have Parkinson's, for God's sakes, now. From their evil, violent, unprovoked, blindside attacks on me when I was 12 years old. I spent my life deaf. And they murdered my father and signified the whole thing, graffitied his obituary with Donahu, like Netanyahu. And they claimed that it was because I had something to do. Roger Waters came down from ABC Media and said, twinkle, twinkle, little toes, syphilitic always knows that you did it with your wiggly nose. Did what? Oh, could have saved John Lennon. What a heap of poop. No. Nothing to do with reality. And the evidence shows that he was in on it. That's the key to their blackout. The key to their blackout was that Lennon pulled a Houdini. The whole thing was smoke and mirrors from Pentagon Disney. Because they needed a big alibi for killing JFK, writing the Texas school book, which is in cold blood. You can look it up online. You can read every single word in detail written by the Israeli Gail Carolyn Boson. George Bush and Joe Biden have cahooted through the whole thing. It's all in detail and script and clear. All of it can be verified. They let the Israeli write a book, and they used images of the Israeli on Roger Waters' records and so forth. His little inside circle. And dared you to name the game because they had a big alibi. And their rules-based order will come out at you. They're going to come out if you dare to say, name the game, which is the only explanation is John Lennon pulled a Houdini. So they're backing, they say, oh, well, we're perverts. We're perverts and we think differently than you. We represent an uprising from Imperial Correction Authority. We're moguls of the Bible. And they say this stuff virtually in cold blood for all to hear, that Paul McCartney is an advocate for Gail Carolyn Boson, that Yoko Ono is an advocate. Penis Gabriel put out a record about castrating a rapist and then came after me, who had been tortured, and said that my congestive memories of being kidnapped and tortured as a child were evidence of date read because he could make me blink. And he had me chemically castrated. They came after the deaf girl who taught me sign language, which is the reason why I'm alive and in honors, because I was able to go back to school, and raped her. A deaf girl with epilepsy raped her. And they said that they were corrections punishers, and they're protecting the Israelis, and they're not going to let us look at the last bit of evidence that they have kept confiscated for national security reasons and the rules-based order.